Hi, this is Alimayo Arango of littleguycgi.com, and today I wanted to show you how to do a super easy, very cool technique, which is a light sweep in Blender. A super easy light sweep. A while ago I did a light sweep, how to do a light sweep in Blender, and a light sweep is basically like you'll see a logo, the logo will animate or it'll show up, and then you'll see like a light kind of like sweep across it. It's a very beautiful effect. Very cool. A lot of times I would open up After Effects, go in there and do After Effects light sweep. Blender, you can do this effect very easily, and it is very cool. So let's get started. Okay, if this is your first time in Blender, I recommend you go to File, User Preferences, go to Input, and then choose Select with left click. Blender's default select is with right click, and this may confuse you if you're coming from Adobe programs or basic Windows or other 3D programs. If you're on a laptop, if you put a check mark right here, it will make your laptop keys at the top of your keyboard act like a full keyboard's, which in Blender the view keys are basically the number keys all the way to the right of a full keyboard. Okay, the first thing we're going to do is make our text. So what you're going to do is you're going to left click on this cube here. You're going to hit X to delete the cube. You're then going to hit Shift A to bring up your add menu. You're going to go to text, left click text. You can see when text comes in, it just says text, which is fine. We're actually going to hit 1 on our number keyboard to go in the front view. Then you're going to hit R to rotate on the X axis. So you're going to hit the X key and then 90 to make it scale up on 90 degrees to make the text stand straight up. Once you have your text standing straight up, you're going to hit the Tab key, which is going to allow you to actually change the text. So let's delete this text. Okay. Once you have your text in, you're going to hit Tab to go back into object mode. Tab just brought you in into edit mode, and that's how you edited your text. Okay, just to get this text away from being on the edge like here, I'm going to hold Shift. I'm going to hold the middle mouse button and drag, and this just lets me pan the view. All right, this is standard Blender text. This is the Blender font text. I'm going to take my middle mouse button. I'm going to click and hold just to drag this panel out a little bit more so you can see better. I'm going to click right here, which allows you to change your text options. I want to change the font of this text. So see that where it says font right here? I'm going to look where it says regular. I'm going to go to this folder right here. I'm going to left click. I'm now going to go to my C drive. I'm going to go to Windows, since I'm on a Windows computer. And then I'm going to go to where I see fonts. I'm going to look for the font. I learned this font BBAS from a Blender Guru tutorial, and I like it, so I tend to use it. It tends to work well with 3D text. So I'm going to just double click here, and now you can see the font changed here. Okay, I want this text to be centered. So now what I'm going to do is I am going to scroll down just a little bit, and you see where it says align. So right now it's aligned left. You can see it's aligned right, like with this blue line here. I'm going to click center, and then I'm going to hold Shift in my middle mouse button just to pan, and now you can see that this is centered. See how this font doesn't have much space in between the words, so what I'm going to do is just take my arrow keys and go up to put 2 extra spaces in there. Okay, this next part I actually learned off of the tutorial Blender Tutor for You. I love how they did this text. They're who I got this idea from. I absolutely love their way of setting up 3D text. It's one particular way. And what you do is, here's my text. See where it says fill, you click here, you go to none. Okay? And with it selected, none, you go to your depth. You turn this depth all the way up to 7. Then you go to your resolution. You turn this up to 4. Okay? Now what you're going to do is hit Shift D to duplicate your text. You can see here's the text here. I right click and it'll put it right back on top of the other text. And now what I'm going to do with that is I'm going to click for this second text. As a matter of fact, just so you understand what's going on. There's two text here. There's the top text, which is this solid text. The text that has the center out of it, and then we made a second text, which you can see here, that's right on top of it. So with this second text selected, but still on top of the first text, we're going to click here, and we're going to select both to fill it in. And now we're going to take this, what we just did on the first text, we're going to take this off. So our depth, I'm going to take this down to 0. We're going to take this resolution down to 0. Okay, now with that done, what we're going to do is we're going to go from the Blender renderer. When you start off in Blender, you're in what's called the Blender renderer, and basically it's how you output images. We're going to go from this Blender renderer to Cycles render. So you just click right here. You can see Cycles renderer. Click right here, and I'll show you very quickly how I set up Cycles. And basically what Cycles is, the reason why we came in here, Cycles makes things look beautiful. Cycles gives you very realistic lighting. Without getting into it, Cycles it tends to make things look very beautiful. So most of the time, if I want to do some impressive text, I'll come into Cycles. So anyway, for the way I set up Cycles, I'll click here. I have a NVIDIA card in this computer. I think I have a NVIDIA 650. I think you have to have a NVIDIA 600 series and up to use this. But I change Cycles renderer tends to work better with your GPU rather than your CPU. So I'll click here. I'll change this to GPU. Now the reason why I'm able to change this is again because I have that NVIDIA card. I tend to render things out in 720p. So I'm going to come here. I'm going to go to HD 720. I'm going to change this image editor to new window, just so that when I go to render, it gives me a separate window. So I don't, basically when you have the image editor, sometimes if you don't change this to new window, if you keep it on image editor, when you go to render something, your screen will fill up with what you're rendering. And sometimes if you go to click X to get out of the render, you'll click this X by accident and you'll go to shut off Blender. So I just put new window there. Typically in Cycles, I'll come down to light paths. I'll take my bounces down to 4, and I'll take my minimum down to 0. I really can't see much of a difference in how things look, but I do see a pretty decent performance increase by doing that. And then I'll change my performance. I'll take this up from 640 to 540. Seems like it renders faster this way to me. Anyway, now that we're in Cycles, what I'm going to do is I am going to split the screen. And I'm just going to click this little arrow right here, click, hold, pull, and drag, which gives me a split screen view. I'm going to hit T to take away this tool panel here. And, oops. Okay, so now we can see here. One of the advantages of working in Cycles is you can actually see what your render looks like as you're working. So what we're going to do now is we're going to click right here and change this to rendered, so we can get an idea of what's going on. And we don't have any lights in the scene yet. So what we're going to do is, in Blender, when you bring new objects in, they tend to come in where or they don't tend to, they come in where the 3D cursor's at. So I'm going to click right here and hit Shift A. I'm going to go to Mesh, Plane to bring a plane in. I'm going to hit S to scale and just pull out. I'm going to hold my middle mouse button so you can see what I did there. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit 1 on my number keypad. I'm going to right click above the text here. I'm going to hit Shift A. I'm going to go to Mesh, Plane to put a plane in here. And hit S to scale just to bring this up a little bit bigger. Okay, with this plane selected, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to hold my middle mouse button over this panel here. By pushing and holding the middle mouse button, it allows me to drag. I'm going to click right here, which is my materials button. I'm going to click new. Then see where it says surface diffuse. I'm going to click here. I'm going to change this to emission, and this is basically going to turn this plane into a light. And now you can see the effect over here of that plane. I'm going to take the plane, push it down a little bit more so you can see more light. And one of the cool things in cycles, as you can see, as soon as you do something here, you can see the effect right over there. What we want to do now is we want to select the top text. I'm just going to select it right here. So basically the text that we're grabbing now is we're grabbing this outside text, and we're going to click new, and then we're going to select we're going to change this to glossy. We're going to select right here where it says color, and we're just going to turn this to like a, trying to get it to look like a kind of a goldish color. You can kind of see it in right there, and that's fine. So you see this grain here. This grain here, don't be alarmed by that. Basically, you're seeing a Cycles real-time preview. When I click here, the thing that determines how smooth this is, like that grain, did you see there? That grain is from wait a second, this samplings level. Now, where you see it says render here, when I actually go to render it, this is what this will be. This is 10. It's very low. Preview is 10. The preview is what you're seeing now. If I click this preview and I take this preview, if I just click 100, watch what happens. See this number right here racing up? Okay, there it goes. It says 100. And there you can see how much clearer this is. So yeah, the grain is by the higher the samples, the less grain you'll have. Anyway, what we're going to do now is we're going to select the second text. And we're going to go back to our materials button right here. We're going to select new. And then we're just going to select color. And I think I'm just going to make this. I'll make it like a. What color do I want to make this? We'll keep it like that for now. So basically now, after all that stuff and all the things with cycles and all that, now comes the light suite, which is what this tutorial is actually supposed to be about. Actually, I'm going to actually turn this color. Yeah, that looks better to me anyway. Anyway, let's get on to the light sweep. Okay, and basically what the light sweep is going to be, we're actually going to hold our middle mouse button, turn right here. I'm actually going to just click onto this text. I'm going to hit Shift S, cursor to selected, right? So we have that right there. Now what I'm going to do is hit Shift. We have the 3D cursors. What I hit Shift S. And what that did was that brought the cursor right to the level in 3D space where, where the text is at. So now wherever the 3D cursor is at is where an object comes in. What we're going to do is hit Shift A. We're going to bring in a plane. And now with this plane, we're going to hit R to rotate on the X-axis 90 degrees. All right. We're going to look at this in 3D. We're going to pull this out just slightly. Just slightly. So you can see from the side, it's almost right on top of it, but it's got a little bit of space. Now what we're going to do is hit S to scale on the Z-axis. Right, so we're going to make it, kind of like much thinner. I'm going to hit 1 to go in the front view. I'm now going to hit R to rotate on the Y-axis. I'm going to hit S to scale to make this a little bit bigger. And I'm going to zoom out and just roll the middle mouse button. So now what I'm going to do here is I am going to change this to, I'm going to put an emission on this plane here. Okay, I'm putting the emission on this plane. Is very similar to what we did with the light that's actually lighting this up here. With the plane selected, we're in our material panel. We're going to select new. We're going to go change this diffuse, click here. We're going to go look for emission, which is right here. We left click this. Now this is emitting. See this strength here? And the plane, basically you can see it glowing there. We want to turn this to 2.500, or 2.5, I should say. So we change this to 2.5. All right, and now we can see the emission there. Now what we want to do is, obviously this is right in front of here, right? Let's set up the camera. So what we're going to do is, with my mouse button over here, over the render viewpoint, I'm going to hold Control, Alt, and O. And what that does is that when you hit that Control, Alt, O, it automatically brings the camera to where your viewpoint is at. I'm going to hit N to bring up this menu right here. I'm then going to select Lock Camera to View, and I'm going to hit N to take this away. When I click that Lock Camera to View, now the way you manipulate your view will now manipulate your camera. So when I roll my mouse wheel back, it'll actually put those words, more in camera view. So I'm going to hit N again. I'm going to click here to take this lock camera, off the view, right? Now, obviously, we don't want this, blocking. We just want the light from here. I'm going to zoom in so you can see a little bit better. We just want the light. So the way we do that is we go to here, our active data menu, and then we scroll down to where we see ray visibility. So you see this ray visibility right here. You're going to select this arrow right here, and then you're just going to unclick camera. Now we have the light from the emission from the panel, but we can't see the actual light. So now it's very simple. Now to set up the actual light sweep, all we're going to do is take our manipulator, push the light back, and you can actually see, let me show you this right here. See the effect you can see right there? That's kind of the effect, basically the light sweep right there. So what we're going to do is push it back so it's not shining on the light, or shining on the text, I should say. And we're just going to animate this light sweep. So what we're going to do is I'm going to hold the right button on my mouse button. I'm going to pull on the timeline. I'm going to take this up to 10. And then with this still selected, you can see the orange line around the this plane that's emitting the light. I'm going to hit I to bring up my keyframe. I'm just going to select the location. And what that did, it just put a keyframe right there in frame 10. I'm now going to hold my right mouse button again. I'm going to pull this over to, I'll take it to 80. All right. And now with the time, first we moved the timeline, so I didn't move this yet. First the timeline, then we're going to take a manipulator and just pull this right across so it goes past the text. And out of the camera view. And now we're just going to hit I to put another keyframe in. We're going to select location again. And now with that selected, you'll see that when I right click to scrub the timeline, you can see there's the mesh that's causing the light sweep to go past the text there. Okay, now with the animation set up and the the keyframes and everything set up, what you basically did, because we set this up before, I tend to render at 720p, so that's set up. All I would do now is that I'm actually rendering is I would go to my my samples. I have this at 100. I'm going to turn the render actually to 100, and then what I'm going to do is go to my output. So here's my output here. So I'm just going to select. I'm going to create a new directory. Light sweep tutorial output. I'll just name it light sweep. Yeah, same thing. Tutorial output. I'll click select. Blender's default when you're outputting is PNGs. So I'm just going to turn that from PNG to H.264. I'm then going to go to encoding. I'm going to turn this from AVI to MPEG-4. And if you had music, which we don't now, but if you had it, you could go to audio codecs and you might click MP3. Okay, now with all that done, and I had the timeline now set to 85. The Blender's default is to 250. Now with everything set up, also the camera view, you want to make sure that you're actually looking through the camera like we are. With everything set up, you will just go up and click animation. Okay, and here's another setup, slightly different text, a little bit slightly different color, just so you can see a different, level of the effect. Okay, guys, that's it for the tutorial. This effect, I think, is very cool. It's a very easy effect. For whatever reason, like I said, I made up a previous tutorial trying to do a light sweep. It's very complicated. This is very easy. Uh, Great for just adding some splash when you're doing any kind of text effects, or if you're doing a movie title. Just throwing in that light sweep just seems to, I don't know, it's just that last little polish. So, Blender can do it very well, and you don't have to go in After Effects. So, anyway, all you guys who support this channel, thank you. I appreciate it. And for all you guys who are new to this channel and are viewing it now, if you like what you see and you like these tutorials, please subscribe, and thank you for viewing.